Everyone believes Kenshiro was chosen because he became the strongest. Everyone believes Toki would have been chosen if he hadn't gotten sick. Everyone believes Raoh was passed over because he was too cruel. They're wrong. Ryuken did not choose Kenshiro because of who he was. Ryuken chose Kenshiro because of who he was going to become. Before the 7 scars, before Yuria was taken, before he became the man who bears sorrow, Ryuken already knew Kenshiro was the only one who could carry Hokuto Shinken to its final truth. Not because he was the strongest, but because he would lose everything and still walk forward. From the very beginning of Fist of the North Star, we are told a simple truth. There can be only one successor to Hokuto Shinken. One man, one destiny, one bearer of 2,000 years of assassination history. And yet, for years, fans and characters alike have questioned the same decision. Why Kenshiro? Why not Toki, the genius? Why not Raoh, the strongest? Why not anybody else? But what if the truth is this? What if Kenshiro was never chosen because he was the only one who ever could be? This is the story of why Ryuken didn't simply choose Kenshiro. He recognized him. Let's begin with the obvious. Jagi was never going to inherit Hokuto Shinken. Not because he lacked strength, but because he lacked its soul. Hokuto Shinken is not simply a martial art. It is a burden. It exists to protect the weak. Jagi did not protect the weak. He preyed on them. He used Hokuto techniques not as a sacred responsibility, but as tools for cruelty and ego. And Ryuken saw clearly, even before Kenshiro scarred his face, Jagi's path was already sealed. He didn't fail to become successor. He was never worthy of the possibility of becoming successor. Raoh is where the question becomes harder, because Raoh was everything Hokuto Shinken was meant to create. Power, confidence, mastery. He was, without question, one of the greatest martial artists in history. But Raoh had already made his choice. He believed strength alone defined justice. He believed the strong had the right to rule. He did not want to inherit Hokuto Shinken. He wanted to conquer with it. And Ryuken understood something terrifying. If Raoh became successor, Hokuto Shinken would no longer serve humanity. It would rule it. Raoh was not rejected because he was weak. He was rejected because he was complete. He would never change. He would never bend. He would never carry sorrow until it was too late. And then there was Toki, the genius, the prodigy, the man many believed should have been successor. Even Kenshiro himself. Toki understood Hokuto Shinken on a level even Kenshiro had not yet reached. His technique was flawless. His spirit was pure. His compassion was limitless. But that was also his problem. Toki did not embody Hokuto Shinken's full truth, because Hokuto Shinken is not simply compassion. It is compassion born from suffering. Toki wished to heal. Kenshiro learned to endure. Toki avoided the abyss. Kenshiro walked through it. Toki represented Hokuto's mercy, but Kenshiro represented his humanity. Kenshiro was incomplete, and that is why he was chosen. Kenshiro was not the strongest. He was not the most skilled. He was not the most confident. And he was not the most complete. He was unfinished. And Ryuken knew that that's what mattered, because Kenshiro possessed the one thing that the others did not. Kenshiro had the ability to grow. Kenshiro loved. He loved Yuria. He loved his brothers. He loved his friends. And because he loved, he could suffer. This was proven long before he became successor, when Shu gave his sight to save Kenshiro's life. Kenshiro was not saved because he was strongest. He was saved because he was kind. And even then, the world was shaping him, preparing him for sorrow. Shin's betrayal created the successor. Kenshiro was chosen before Shin, but he became the successor because of Shin. Shin did not just scar Kenshiro's chest, he scarred his soul. He took Yuria. He destroyed Kenshiro's life, and in doing so, he began Kenshiro's transformation. Because Hokuto Shinken's ultimate technique cannot be learned. It cannot be taught. It cannot be inherited. It has to be earned through loss, through grief, through love, through sorrow. Kenshiro did not simply survive his suffering. He carried it. He became it. He became the man who bears sorrow. Muso Tensei is the ultimate truth of Hokuto Shinken. It is the technique of nothingness, the state achieved only by those who have lost everything. Not the strongest, not the smartest, and not the most talented. Only the one who has known true sorrow. Ryuken could not teach Muso Tensei, but he knew who could reach it, and he was right. Kenshiro became the first successor in generations to unlock it. Even Raoh needed to lose everything before he could follow, because strength alone was never enough. Years later, we learned Kenshiro carried the blood of Hokuto's original family, the Hokuto Soke. But this was never why he was chosen, because blood alone does not create the successor. If it did, Hyo, his older brother, would have been successor too. But Hyo lost himself. Kenshiro did not, because Kenshiro never abandoned his humanity, even when the world took everything from him. Ryuken didn't choose Kenshiro, he chose Hokuto's future. Ryuken did not choose the strongest, he did not choose the most skilled. He chose the one who would suffer, because only the man who suffers can protect a suffering world. Raoh was strength, Toki was compassion, but Kenshiro was both, and neither. He was human, and that is why Kenshiro was always the successor. In the end, Hokuto Shinken was never about strength. Raoh spent his life believing strength would let him conquer sorrow. He was wrong. Toki spent his life believing kindness could protect people from sorrow. He was wrong. Kenshiro understood the truth. You cannot conquer sorrow. You cannot avoid sorrow. You can only carry it. Every friend he made died. Every brother that he loved fell. Every happiness he found was taken from him. And still he walked. Still he fought. Still he protected others. Not because he was the strongest man alive, but because he was the only man who understood their pain. And this is why Ryuken chose him. Not because Kenshiro was worthy, but because he was willing to become unworthy, to lose his home, his family, his love, his future, so that someone else would not have to. In the end, Kenshiro did not inherit Hokuto Shinken. He inherited the suffering of the world, and he carried it, alone, into the wasteland. This is Fist of the North Star, and every fist has its story.